Beyond the Badge is brought to you by the Edina Crime Prevention Fund.
So these are the 22 new AEDs that are going to be in our fleet of squads.
Our AEDs that we currently have in our squads are kind of old, and the batteries have been failing and stuff, and it was harder to get parts. So I know our administration started seeking out alternative options for replacing the AED, and they came across the grant that the U of M was putting on.
The University of Minnesota submitted for a grant back in 2010 called the Heart Rescue Project, and it was a project to improve outcomes from sudden cardiac arrest.
Adult mode.
The Helmsley Charitable Trust they have offices in New York and Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And the trustee that primarily operates here in the Midwest has kind of set up this upper Midwest region that he has been focusing on rural healthcare. The founder, or the person most closely associated with this, is Dr. Edina Yiannopoulos. He is an interventional cardiologist and has always had an interest in resuscitation science. I really felt like if we're going to look at the chain of survival for resuscitation, you can't just focus on EMS, you can't just focus on hospital. You really have to start right away. Like, who's there in the first few minutes?
If you or a loved one is suffering a medical emergency and you call 911, 9 times out of 10 it's going to be a police officer that's going to be the first one to arrive at your house.
So the City of Edina, for their law enforcement vehicles, received 22 devices. Once they have them hooked up and ready to go, they also need to be connected to a Wi-Fi source.
When we deploy this in the field, after it's used, there's going to be data collected, and the department gets feedback on not only the deployment but also the compressions that the officers are doing to go towards our future training and improving our response for our community.
The rhythm, what was happening, it documents every single thing that happened. The case gets uploaded, they get a report back.
We're working together.
So we can go in through.
You know, we have this opportunity to look at exactly what's happening. We've been able to connect back with agencies to find out where they've had saves and to really be able to focus on some of the good work that law enforcement does, saving lives out in their communities. Having a person on an AED within the first 10 minutes is the most beneficial. In Minnesota, over 70% of our cardiac arrests are happening in the home. So that means law enforcement is going to be the first opportunity to get an AED to that patient. Automatic external defibrillators are really the best tool they can have in their pack.
This is the LifePak CR2 automatic external defibrillator. Initial training. It gives instant CPR feedback, which is metronome guided. One person, the officer, can get down and begin CPR. So then CPR started, partner arrives, has the AED.
We know when a person has a sudden cardiac arrest, and this is science that dates back many years, is that when they go into cardiac arrest, their heart goes into ventricular fibrillation, kind of that quivering. So it's not pushing blood out, it's not creating a pulse, but there's still some activity in that heart. If we can get an AED on early enough, it can send a shock that takes that unorganized rhythm and shocks it back into a normal rhythm.
Push down hard.
One nice thing about these new AEDs is that you don't have to stop CPR for it to measure the rhythm of the patient. It can do it while you're continuously doing CPR.
So they can stay on the chest doing compressions longer, which is beneficial for the patient.
Everyone clear.
It will tell them if there's a shock to be delivered. They then take their hands off and it delivers the shock. But hands off chest is a much shorter time period. Well, when you get that report back, it shows you how often you were off the chest, how even and regular your compressions were. And that type of feedback, I think, is really valuable, especially for first responders who often haven't been the recipient of that kind of information. We know that if bystander CPR is started, the chance of survival doubles, if not triples. And so you add that with an AED and you have exponentially improved that. AEDs, however you can get them, are going to be beneficial to help outcomes.